Hi guys, it's Kelly and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Pinkfresh Studios. I'm using this scallop cover plate, these cute little Christmas presents, the delicate foliage, the wonderful in every way set. We've used this before because I'm a big fan, and the ornate circle. And we're going to be talking about casing cards. So this is the card that I'm casing. If you don't know what casing means, don't worry, we're going to come back to it. And it was created by my wonderful friend Michelle Lipton. So don't worry, you'll see this picture again. So casing somebody's card means copy and steal everything. That's what it means. Which is honestly how almost all crafters start off. Like, we see something that we like and we want to reproduce it. So there's nothing wrong with casing something. However, we're going to talk about casing cards in a different way, which will be to help you grow as an artist and find your own style. So you'll notice that my card looks significantly different from Michelle's, but there are a lot of elements that I took from hers and then I made it my own. So the first element that I really loved about Michelle's card was this kind of scallop background that she had going. And so that's why I chose the cover plate. So hers is gold foiling, mine is a cover plate, but it creates the same kind of pattern. Also, hers has a floral focal point, and hers is gold and white. So these are all things that I really loved about hers. She also did some heat embossing on vellum. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to use the same technique that she did. We're just not going to use white. We're going to use gold. So that's what I'm doing here with these little leaves. I am going to heat emboss them on vellum. Vellum is known to be very, very staticky, so make sure that you treat it with an anti-static tool beforehand. And then in order to get a good impression, I find that I have much better results with a gold pigment ink, but you absolutely could use Versamark. I would maybe just stamp it twice, which you can only do if you have a stamp positioner. If you don't, just try to get a good, make sure you take extra time inking it up, get a good solid impression, and then, go for it. So when you are casing somebody's card and you're trying to grow as an artist yourself, and you're not trying to just absolutely 100% reproduce what they've already made. And again, let me reiterate, there's nothing wrong with that, with the caveat, as long as you give that person credit. If you're reproducing their design, you need to be giving them credit. So if you're sharing it on Instagram or you're sharing it in a YouTube video or whatever, if it's not your own original work, then you need to be giving that person credit because they're the ones who created the design. It's super important. It's just good ethics. So the reason that I was creating this card is Michelle every year does Case Me a Christmas Card. If you followed my channel, you know that every year I participate in Case Me a Christmas Card. And here, we're going to go back to this. So I really loved the gold and white. I think that was super pretty. So I wanted to make sure that I incorporated that as well. So here with this ornate circle, I'm using a paper pouncer and Versamark, and I'm only inking up like 3/4 of the circle with the Versamark. And then I'm going to heat emboss this in gold as well. That's going to help it stand apart from this white scallop background that we have. And honestly, just make it slightly more interesting. Now, I don't want a harsh edge, so you can see I'm just going to go in on the edges where it ends and just brush away some of the gold embossing powder. The reason that I chose not to use the pigment ink for this one is because it's not clear. So it would have been gold wherever I pounced it. The Versamark in this case works much, much better. And then again, I'm just going to heat emboss this until it is nice and melted. So anyway, Michelle does Case Me a Christmas Card every year, and every year I do it. It started off as like a way for her to kind of get her mojo back, and she was asking people, what challenges she should do. And then it turned into, because what was the first one I did? I think I did a glow-in-the-dark Christmas card 100 years ago, I think was the challenge that I ended up doing with her. And now it's turned into her just... she cases someone else's card, and then you case Michelle's card. So I'm very familiar with casing Michelle's cards. I've done it a few times. But this time, Michelle's got some things going on in her personal life. And so she wasn't going to be able to do Case Me a Christmas Card. And Ardith, not sure if you're familiar with Ardith Percy Robb, she actually reached out to all of us and was like, hey, why don't we do like a hop or a share for Michelle? So we actually did that back on October 1st. That's how long ago I made this card. I just haven't had the opportunity to share it because we've had so much other stuff going on. But so that was a wonderful idea. I love that she had that idea and reached out to all of us to include us. And if you look on Instagram, that's where all of them were shared, and you specifically look for the hashtag Case Me a Christmas Card. I think it's Case Me a Christmas Card 2023, honestly. But you'll be able to see all the cards that everybody cased from Michelle, which I totally love. Let's talk about what we're doing. So this is one of the ways that I am kind of veering off. Michelle had a beautiful floral element as her focal point. I wanted to recreate that. However, Michelle's card is fairly monochromatic. It's just white and gold. I like color. That is something that is true to me. And so I wanted to incorporate a colored floral. So even though it is different, it doesn't mean that we're not still casing or being inspired by Michelle's card. We're just incorporating a little bit of Kelly in there also. And so I chose, because this is, turning it into a Christmas card. Hers was a birthday card. Mine is a Christmas card. I went with green and red. It made the most sense to me. To do them that way, for it to be a very apparent Christmas card. And I chose some darker, like a less saturated yellow green. This is the E90s or the YG90s family. Kelly, get it together. And then for the floral, I went with the R's. I didn't go as dark as I normally do, but I think it was still okay. And then a golden yellow for the center. So anywho, if you're trying to grow as an artist, you can take these things that you really love. You don't have to love everything about the card. Like I said, with Michelle's, hers was very monochromatic. I like color, so there's a change automatically I know that I'm going to make. But looking at the other elements that I do love, you can pull out those different elements that you're like really inspired by or really enjoy, and then incorporate those things. And it's still being inspired by that person. It's still, casing their card. It's just not an exact duplicate of what they've created. And it's a really, really great way, if you find yourself in a creative slump, to kind of break out of that slump by looking at other people's. That's one of the reasons why I love Instagram and Pinterest and all those things, because when I am not feeling it creatively, like when my mojo has taken a vacation, I can go on there and I can look at other people being creative and then successfully turn those into my own style. And like I said, I think almost everybody starts out this way, where we're casing other people's cards because you see a project, you want to recreate it because you love it and you think it's beautiful. You just have to, if you want to grow and you want to find your own style, and not that there's anything wrong with not growing. Okay, sometimes we only have the mental capacity to just see it and reproduce it. And sometimes, if that's the season of life you're in, that's totally fine. If that's not the season of life you're in and you are trying to find your own style, then start looking at other people's projects to be inspired and not to copy every single little bit of it. Start to look at the things that you really love and then incorporate the other things about your style that you really love. In my case, the coloring. I also like and Michelle does too, a more like clean design. My card does have more layers than her, because texture is really important to me in creating a layered card. I like to have a lot of texture to make the background more interesting, because I know I'm not going to have a super busy background with a lot of color. So if my background is softer and I'm trying to let my coloring be the focal point, which is often the case in my cards, then I need to support that with some other kind of elements that will not make the card boring or not make it the same card that I always create. You know what I'm saying? So Michelle is on lots of design teams because she's fantastic. And that is how I met her. So my very first design team back in the day, this was like back in 2013, I think was my very first design team. My very first design team was a blog named Hero, which was kind of like a fangirl group, if you will, for Hero Arts. Because Hero Arts had their own design team, but this was a challenge blog that was actually started by, it was started by Mary Dawn and Linda Trace. I don't even know if Linda make cards anymore. Mary Dawn I do still see occasionally because we go to the same craft retreat. We run in the same circles. But she got more into sewing than card making. But anyway, a blog named Hero still runs, still is a challenge, and Michelle is still on the design team, God bless her. I ended up leaving after I had my first child because I just could not keep up with design teams. I actually took probably like 6 or 8 months off of card making after I had Peanut because that's where I was. That was the season of life I was in. Card making wasn't a part of it. So here, this is all colored up. I am going to die cut it out. And now we're going to start building our layers. So we have this white scallop background, which is a nod to Michelle's. And then we have this kind of ornate circle, which is going to allow us to have this really nice center focal point, which is, again, a nod to Michelle's. The gold and white we have going on. The floral. So I'm just kind of laying these out. You can see those other 2 circles cut off to the side. That's so I can just kind of build that up and give it some more heft, some more thickness. For the sentiment, I am using a Christmas sentiment from the Presents set. And what does it say? Hold on. I made this card almost a month ago. Enjoy the gifts the season brings. Something like that. Something close to that. And then I'm going to do this in gold on white, and I will use its companion die to cut it out as well after I heat it up and emboss it. So we have all of these elements and layers that are all like kind of nods to Michelle's card, while still very much feeling like a Kelly Taylor style card. I can't even say my own name. Why am I having such a hard time enunciating today? I do not know. Just a quick mention about the glue press. Several people have asked about them and said, made comments that they're sold out. The best thing that I can tell you is I will look to see when they are back in stock. I think my Sweet Petunia, which is the creator of the glue press, does have them in stock. But the best thing I can tell you is to click the notify me button on whatever your preferred store is so that they will email you. I know that they're selling out quickly, and it's because they're great. Nothing's changed about that. They're pretty fantastic. So here, I'm just layering this up for thickness. If you do have this ornate circle, make sure you're watching to how you line them up, because I started lining them up, and I thought I was doing a great job, and then I realized that 2 of them were not lined up. 2 of them were not lined up. They were too short, so I had to turn it. But that's okay. So now this is 3 layers thick. And then I'm also going to, Michelle had a little mat on her card. Here I'm being, you guys know how it rolls. I'm not wasting gold cardstock because it's expensive and I'm cheap. So here I'm just using it to do a very thin mat around the edge. And again, this is another, I like a mat, but Michelle's card also has a mat. Hers is just a gold background with a white mat. Mine is a white background with a gold mat. So I'm going to adhere that down, and then nobody will be able to see it because once it's on the card base, you won't see the back of it. Here, this is the vellum. Remember, Michelle heat embossed her floral on vellum. We're heat embossing our supporting characters on vellum in gold. And I want to make sure you're going to be able to see some of that. So I just kind of messed around with the placement until I was happy with where it was going to be. When you're adhering down vellum, you can see through it. So you need to make sure that you're putting your glue places that it is not going to be seen. They do have, I think, some that claim to dry clear behind it, but I've never found one that worked. If you have one, by all means, share it in the comments. I'd love to know. But we just need enough to tack it down, because once I put the circle on top of it, it's not going anywhere anyway. So I put glue all over this. Remember, I don't have to put any foam tape on it for lift, because we stacked up 3 of these, and then you'll be able to see those beautiful, delicate little leaves and vellum down at the bottom and through the center. And then I did set this, I put some weight on it, my Misty, and then moved that to the side. I know it looked very quick, but that's because I had to cut that part out. You don't want to just watch my Misty sit there. So here, getting the floral where I want it to be, so I know where I want my sentiment to be. And in order to make it flush, I am going to use some foam tape in the center of the flower so that it isn't buckled and kind of like collapsing in on itself. And then for the sentiment as well, any place that it's not sitting on top of that circle, I'll add a little bit of foam tape so everything is securely adhered. So back to Michelle. She's super talented, really fantastic, does a lot of, work. And I've known her for a really long time. I mean, I've known her for a decade at least. So, plus she used to share, we all did back then, because Instagram was not invented. That's how old I am. Instagram was not invented. So we would share over on Flickr in a hero arts group, and they used to have like hero hostesses and all this stuff. And so I would see Michelle's cards, because obviously we were creating with the same types of stamps since we ended up on the same type of design team. And she's always just very kind and gracious, and she's so intelligent. She's a teacher. She loves science. She's just a really great person, and I'm really lucky to know her. She's part of Hero Arts international team, so she is not local, but someday we hope to get her to the U.S. so that all of us can meet her, since so many of us have become friends with her, which would be amazing. I would love to meet her in real life and sit down and have a conversation. Plus, she has like the best accent. So anywho, this is the card, the majority of it finished. I am going to add some gemstones. These are the Harvest gemstones from Honeybee, and I picked some like goldy champagne colored ones. I just felt like they would complement that sentiment really nicely. It would be a good way to draw attention to the sentiment and kind of fill in those empty areas without distracting. I am, of course, going to add a little bit of shimmer to the like floral portion of the flower. And then I am going to add some white gel pen to the center. This is just like little detail work that I super enjoy doing, and I feel like kind of is extra that set my cards apart. Here are the 2 cards side by side. You can see that scallop, that vellum, the metallic, the matte, the floral. So even though they are not exactly the same, they are obviously, this one is very heavily inspired by the other. So I hope that gives you some tips on casing cards. Thank you so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.